What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about Storm. There's a Storm coming, ladies and gentlemen, by which I mean the Storm Hero Pack for Marvel Champions, and I do need to apologise for this one. Long, boring story. I should have got to this a day or two ago. I haven't been able to. I'm very sorry. It's just been one of those weeks, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. I apologise for not having got to it sooner, but Storm is coming, and this one looks weird and kind of awesome, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I am into it. So what we've got here is, well, if we have a look at Aurora Monroe, free recovery, fine, hand size of 6, fine, hit points of 10, fine, all roughly to be expected. But you begin the game with a weather deck, more on that in a moment. And as a setup, choose a support from the weather deck and put it into play. So the weather deck is not random, you choose which weather is on. Obviously, Storm doesn't generate random weather, she chooses the weather. Now, one thing we do need to mention at the start here, that means that after the game begins, you've got nothing on your alter ego other than free recovery. You've got a setup skill, and that's it. So as soon as the game begins, your alter ego does basically nothing. Now, as for your hero, we've got Storm, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 1 defense, all terribly low. Hand size of 5, hit points of 10 to be expected. But you've got an action that lets you swap your weather support in play with a support of your choice from the weather deck. So basically, once per turn, you can use an action which will swap the weather, which is good. And then once per round as a limit, you can resolve the special ability on whatever weather support you have in play. So once per turn you can swap the weather, and once per turn you can use the weather. So what weather do we have? Well, Clear Skies is permanent. They're all permanent, but they can be swapped out, so, I don't know, permanent until it gets swapped. And each character gains Stalwart. That's the one where you've got to have 2 confused or stunned counters to be confused or stunned. And that is each character yours and your opponent, or the villain. But if you're not trying to stun and confuse, but the villain is, then this is clearly great. And then the special skill lets you draw a card. Hurricane gives each character Retaliate 1, and as a special removes 2 threat from a scheme. So you'll see here all of them help and hinder you. You have to look at what character you're playing. I mean, obviously you've got Storm, but I mean your other characters, you know, what your allies are playing. The allies is a bad word, isn't it? Because that's what the allies are a thing. What your other players are playing. And have a look at what the villain's trying to do. Special removes 2 threat from a scheme. Thunderstorm gives each character +1 attack, perfect to get a little bit of extra attack, and bearing in mind you can use this and then just swap it out so you get it and your opponent doesn't, and as a special you deal 2 damage to an enemy, and Blizzard gives each character -1 attack, amazing against Dex Ultron, where you've got lots of minions with 1 attack, completely new to them, it's hilarious. And as a special, choose a non-elite minion, and until the end of the round, treat the minion's text box as if it were blank. But of course, it's not just Storm herself that can change the weather, you've got a bunch of cards. So Weather Goddess is a 0-cost event, lets you swap your weather support in play with a support of your choice from the weather deck, and then resolve the special ability. Makes sense. Storm's Crown gives you +1 thwart, and you exhaust Storm's Crown to generate the printed resource on your weather support, which is kind of important because obviously, you know, generally speaking, they're not in the deck, they're in the weather deck. You're just playing them, you know, you're swapping them out with Storm, but this essentially allows you to still get that resource. And obviously a lot of the deck really focuses around the weather, that's kind of the point. So Storm's Cape is a free cost upgrade, gives you +1 defense and the aerial trait. And after you resolve the special ability on whatever weather support is currently out, you exhaust Storm's Cape, and then Ready Storm gives you a second use. Torrential Rain is a 2-cost event that lets you remove 3 threat from among the schemes in play. And if Hurricane is in play, you resolve its special ability. But bearing in mind, Storm lets you pick and choose the weather, so essentially, if you're going to be playing Torrential Rain this turn, use Storm to make sure Hurricane is out, which is good. Flash Freeze, when the villain attacks you, the villain and each minion engaged with you get -3 attack this phase. And if Blizzard is in play, you resolve the special ability. So you can try and make sure you've got the right weather in play to make the most use of your cards. Blast of Wind is a free cost event, lets you choose a player and deal 3 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with that player. But then you resolve the special ability of your weather support. So here it doesn't matter what weather is in play, you just get to take advantage of whatever one is. And it shouldn't really surprise anyone who is a fan of the X-Men and the comics that Storm comes in as a leadership character because she's often in the leader role. We got a 1-cost event to me, my X-Men. You can only use it if your identity has the X-Men trait. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for an X-Men ally and put it into play. If that ally is still in play at the end of your phase, you add it to your hand, which is nice. I mean, look, obviously, basically you get 1 turn of an X-Men ally because you're putting it straight into play, but then it goes to your hand, so kind of 1 turn of it, but then you get to get it back in your hand. Yeah. And then, of course, when you play it properly, paying the resources and all of that, you're not going to have any damage on, so this is good. Mirage is a 3-cost 2 health ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, each taking a damage. But after Mirage enters play, choose an enemy whose scheme is less than Mirage's thwart, i.e. 1 scheme unless you've managed to buff it up at some point. But then it's stunning them. I don't like when the cost is higher than the health. I've said this many times. 3-cost 2 health makes me nervous, but stunning makes me happy. Pixie is a 2-cost 2 health ally, 1 thwart taking a damage, 2 attack taking 2 damage, i.e. if you attack with Pixie she goes down. But after you play Pixie from your hand, you can add an X-Men ally from your discard pile to your hand. You've still got to pay to play it and there's no reduction or any of that, but you do at least get it in your hand ready to reuse it, which is clearly a bonus. Leadership skill is a 1-cost upgrade that puts 3 leadership counters on there. And when an ally makes a basic thwart or basic attack action, remove 1 leadership counter from here, and they get +1 thwart and +1 attack for that action. So it just buffs up your allies, which is honestly the kind of thing a leader should be doing. Uncanny X-Men makes me happy because, you know, that's what the comics were called. You play under any player's control, maximum 1 team card per player, we've seen that before. Each of your X-Men allies gets +1 hit point. Yay! You know what that means? Pixie can attack and survive. Woo! And if each of your characters has the X-Men trait, each of your X-Men allies cost 1 fewer resource to play. This seems like a kind of broken card if you're playing a full X-Men deck. Being able to, if you're playing full X-Men, then all of the allies being 1 cheaper to play, over the course of a game, that is really going to add up. And then we've got Forge. Now, Forge is a basic ally. 1 thwart, 1 attack, each taking 1 damage. 2 cost, 2 health, nothing special. But after Forge enters play, search your deck and discard pile for an X-Men or X-Force support and add it to your hand. So I told you how Uncanny X-Men is great. Yeah, Forge will get it out. That seems good. And I know a bunch of people have spotted, hang on a second, X-Force, could that mean X-Force in the future? Like Deadpool? I don't know about Deadpool specifically, but yes, X-Force. Why would they give us a card with X-Force on if they weren't going to give us X-Force in the future? Come on, it's happening! Yay! And then we got the X-Jet, a 3-cost support, exhaust the X-Jet, generate an any type resource for a player whose identity has the X-Men trait. Cool. And then we've got a modular encounter set. They do seem to be back. We've got the Shadow King. Now, what we've got is 3 scheme, 3 attack, 6 health. Fine, not stunning, fine. But when a controlled minion is in play, the Shadow King cannot take damage. What does that mean? Well, when revealed, you search the encounter deck and discard pile for a copy of the possessed attachment and reveal it. And what that does is you treat it as, well, you attach it to an ally, and you treat the attached ally as a controlled minion with a blank text box. The attached minion scheme is equal to its printed thwart, and it does not take consequential damage. And like I said, when revealed, you attach it to the ally with the lowest thwart that doesn't already have possessed. If you cannot, this card gains surge. Basically, it takes one of your allies, turns it into a minion, but then of course there is a possessed minion, so the Shadow King becomes invincible. Yes, that seems kind of annoying. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Storm is here, and I love this. Like, if you think about Storm as an X-Man, in the comics and all of that, what we've basically got here is we've got a character who leads and controls the weather. And what we've got in the hero deck is a character that leads and controls the weather. I keep giving props to the design team in like every video for making all the heroes, firstly, different from each other, and secondly, quite true to the comics. It's very obvious that the design team have a great love for the Marvel comics as a whole, and what we've got here is the same kind of thing. As you're playing with Storm, what you need to be doing is constantly changing the weather to make sure that you can take the best advantage of the situation. Change the weather to use the cards in your hand. Change the weather to try and stop the enemies that are in front of you. And even little things like the weather affecting both sides of the board, you and the villain, because that's what weather should do. Love it, ladies and gentlemen. Love it. I'm excited. I think you should be too, but I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Weiss. That's where we talk Marvel Champions and all kinds of card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get weekly bonus pods, join a Discord to chat stuff with us. It's all kinds of fun. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.